I'm Jane Farrow from the town of Montgomery. I thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak. There's just a couple of things I want to highlight. Many of the people who spoke before me gave a lot of good details and facts. I can't duplicate that. Number one, to the employees at Medline, I do not discount the importance of your jobs and the support Medline has given you. It sounds like it's a really nice company to work for. That's not what this is about. And I also thank Medline for the type of work you do, because I have had family members in the hospital and was told Medline on the packaging. So I do want to acknowledge that. But I do have several concerns. One point I want to bring up, Medline as the largest provider and with your amount of profits each year, to be requesting a pilot program. It just makes no sense to me. Any resident who moves into the town of Montgomery or Orange County as a private resident, we do not get any tax breaks. I have many concerns about the impacts on our town, in our community long-term, on our environment. We, the residents, have been in the community for years, and most of us plan to stay. I feel like we're being used. You state that you will, and I underlined it because the word always came out, you will always do the right thing. My husband and I have learned to never use the word always with each other, or never. It just doesn't work out that way. No trucks through the village, I don't know. I do know that the impact on the traffic flow off of 84, 208 down Neely Town Road will be significant. It already can be problematic at different times. I often use that route to get over to Goshen to see my mother. It's not going to go away. And I do echo the need for a moratorium in our town. And let's look at our master plan so we can address growth in a sensible way for our community. Thank you for your time.
Scott Perry.
Employees need their cars repaired. They need to eat somewhere every day. So when you're looking at the pilot project, you have to look at who else will benefit from it. The small businesses that depend on providing their goods and services to these larger businesses. So I hope that's factored in, and I want to thank you for your time.
Jeff Van Zandt.
Good evening, village residents, board members, and everybody else. I'm just about ready to leave. So, when a politician comes to town or a village to ask for a little support, they don't really have to tell the truth. They just have to paint a picture. And the picture that's being painted here tonight, that no Medline traffic or trucks will go through the village, that's ridiculous. That's like saying a taxi from Stewart Airport won't come into Montgomery. Absolutely ridiculous. That's just a little tiny part of a pretty picture, which I'm sure all the board members have heard how pretty the picture is. Do any of you think that is a pretty picture? I have lived in Orange County my entire life. I was born and raised in Goshen. My mom's family is from Montgomery, the Schmitz. They've been over here for 100 years and better. That, to me, when I drive down 416, is not a pretty picture to any resident, whether they work for Medline or not. That is not a pretty picture. Medline sounds like a great company to work for. Of course, their employees wouldn't come here and badmouth the company. They're here supporting the company. But I know plenty of company workers who aren't happy where they are. They're stuck. They're stuck with kids here in New York. They're stuck with bills. They're stuck because their kids are under the age of 18, and maybe they're divorced, and the kid has to stay here in New York. They can't move to PA. They can't move to Florida. Maybe some of these village board members or town board members are moving soon. Do they care about the future of the village? You're here for us. I understand the politicians, the real estate people, they all want this project to go through because it benefits them. It puts money in their pockets. It doesn't put money in the village pockets. It doesn't help pay my taxes. If you want a successful relationship with all the village and town members, you have to listen to all of us. It feels like this project is just getting rammed down everybody's throats. For a company to come in and pay 5 or 6 or 7 times the amount of land value on a piece of property on speculation is absurd. I'm a carpenter by trade my entire life. I've traveled for the past years to Pine Island. Now I'm traveling to Brewster. For anyone to think that Neelytown Road isn't going to be a disaster if this project comes to town is absolutely nuts. Good night.
Pat Hector.
Hello, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm a lifelong resident with roots generations deep of farm families here in Montgomery. Year after year, I become more distressed at the loss of all this precious land to industrial creep. I work and volunteer in the field of public health, and I strongly focus on preventing children from being poisoned and protecting them from toxins in their environment. I hope and pray for all of you that you will also. This is the time to really focus on that. Tonight, I'd like to focus on the stormwater runoff that will affect the health of the watershed, and this is our health. The Wallkill River is only 50 feet away. The runoff from the 85% of the farmland being ruined equals 88.4 acres. They state in their DEIS that they will be requesting a waiver to disturb more than 5 acres at a time. Who is going to monitor this? Who will assure that sediment and particulates will not contaminate our river and our watershed, both during the construction and upon operating this plant? Distribution center. When you allow a corporation to self-monitor, you end up with a Superfund site, a toxic situation with poisonings and illnesses as a result. The air particulates from trucks have been associated with cardiac, respiratory problems, and premature births. Lead runoff into the water cannot be boiled away. Remember the 2018 EPA report of violations for contamination and the ill health effects that were cited by Tom. People end up in hospitals. They need Medline products. Ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems maybe having a toxic warehouse that makes people sick sounds actually like a good business move for the Medline Distribution Center. Please pay attention to the stormwater control plan they propose, as it includes the floodplain storage. They're also disturbing the 100-year-old floodplain. Have you been by the Wallkill River when it floods? Please think of this when reading this plan. Think of that water and how strong it is. The DEIS states that they will design the warehouse to, quote, allow runoff to infiltrate into the ground, unquote. Who will monitor this for toxins? Please don't wait until it's too late. If you allow the rush to, avoid a true environmental impact statement. Reject this proposal. Propose and vote for a moratorium until we have a master plan. We get a true master plan, comprehensive plan for the town, then we can truly study this and protect our health. Thank you.
Bill Fioravanti.
Director of Economic Development for Orange County, and I also was a resident of the Village of Montgomery for 8 years, my first 8 years in Orange County, so I know how special a place the village and the town are, and I do respect that. I am here supporting the project, first and foremost because the zoning fits, period. I understand residents calling for a change. Please allow me to speak like everyone did. I do understand that people calling for a new comp plan, that's part of the process, that's part of what you all need to do. This is the comp plan that's been in place, this is the intention of this planning. It's all about this site being an extension of the Neely Town Road corridor, which without question has been an absolute boom for this town, for the Valley Central School District. I've heard several comments about Medline shortchanging teachers and our schools and all of that. And I certainly recall how UNFI was treated when they went through the same process. But the truth is that I shudder to think, and I hope everyone else does, how this district would fare without the Neely Town Road corridor. And pilots were involved with many of those companies along Neely Town. It's part of how we've attracted one Fortune 500 company after another in the strongest industry sectors in the country, if not the world, by the way. Most are now paying full taxes, and the majority have done so for many, many years. How many of these companies have left since their pilots expired? 0. And this notion that Medline is moving out of way under because their pilot is just expiring, they're leaving a 500,000 square foot building, not jumping into another 500,000 square feet or 600,000, it's 1.3 million, they've grown tremendously. Those of us that have worked with them know the kind of corporate citizens they are, and the idea that it's just absolutely preposterous that this is some scheme to move now, come out of here. So specifically regarding Medline, you're hearing firsthand what kind of employers they are from your neighbors. These are real people that are supporting real families with real jobs right here, getting competitive pay and excellent benefits, and an employer who, quote, takes care of you the way many current employees have said tonight that Medline's done for them. That matters a lot. And these jobs that are so valuable will actually double through this project. Medline has a responsibility, however, to mitigate the potential negative impacts. We all understand that, absolutely believe that. The county absolutely feels that as well. We have 100% confidence that they will do that. They're a premier company in an industry with tremendous staying power. They have been good neighbors here in Orange County for years, and they'll continue to be good neighbors here in Montgomery. I urge you to support Medline. Thanks.
Chris McCracken.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Chris McCracken. I work for Advanced Testing Company. We are a Campbell Hall-based company in our 35th year in business here in Orange County. Myself, I was the first in my family to go to college. I attended Mount St. Mary College and had the opportunity to start at Advanced right after school, and I've been there for 17 years now. And I'm present at tonight's meeting to express support for Medline's proposed project in Montgomery here. A lot of what I plan to say has already been stated, so I'm not going to reiterate all of that, but I do believe that it's important to try and retain the firms that have made Orange County their home, providing folks here with employment and a waiver rate to raise families in the area. And with Medline being a family-owned company and ranked as a top place to work, I think it's the type of place that towns typically would desire and work to attract. And I think the stories that weren't necessarily expected from the employees tonight go to reinforce that as well. Medline is currently providing for 300 jobs in Way Beyond and plan to add 300 more. And from everything we've heard, it sounds like a great place to work and a great place to have in your town. The proposed project will provide local firms, including professional firms, surrounding retail, and construction firms with the opportunity to provide services both during and after construction. With these things in mind, I respectfully ask the board to consider the positive measures being taken by Medline as they plan the project and hope to see the project approved in the coming months. Thank you.
James Smith.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to give you my thoughts on Medline projects. I just want to back up with what Mr. McCracken mentioned. He hit the nail on the head as far as Medline, what they do
Can't hear you.
Orange County and Montgomery. Also, I just want to reflect back to the opening statements. that Mr. Dimitri is a quality individual. They are a quality firm. They are going to provide 300 additional jobs in Orange County. And in speaking to them and their corporation, it's quality first. They're permitted to, the property is zoned for that type of distribution center. It's ideally located. It's not going to have a major impact in this beautiful community of Montgomery. And we got to look at the future.
Where do you live?
You know, we saw the children here. We got to think about tomorrow. 10 years from now, a 2% increase in tax, and you just keep to what you're allowed to increase as taxes, 20%. Your taxes are going up. How are you going to pay for those taxes? You need the businesses to support the schools and the community. And for that, I support the project. And thanks again for allowing me to speak tonight.
Jim Taylor.
Thank you, board members. We appreciate the time and
Can't hear you.
putting all the projects that you
Speak up.
you. I know I spent a couple of years on this board, many months.
Can't hear you.
Repeated visits, so I understand the frustration and the patience and all of the attributes that it takes to really weigh a project. But a project is in the permitting process is a right. And you have to go through an approval process under this right. And the problem is, public hearings are great, but public hearings are about my personal opinion, my feelings. I think it's not under the penalty of perjury where you can't get up here. You gotta tell the truth. You can't slant the facts. You can't bend the facts. The facts are the facts. And a big part of this board, because I've known many of you for many years, we came to Neelytown Road in 1985. We were one of the first businesses on that road under Carl Hellstrom, other than truck stops. And I was a resident of Montgomery, the village of Montgomery, 1960, 1965. I heard somebody say Railroad Avenue, Boyd Street for a number of years. I graduated on this stage, I think the day was June 12, 1965, 35, 54 years ago. So when you talk history, I've watched the history of this town for many, many years. And I sit here tonight, and I'm disheartened. I'm disheartened when I hear the slant, the mistruths, bend the facts for my persuasion. It just kills me, and I don't like it. And I heard Susan Cockburn, ex-supervisor, talk about the 3 studies. If I'm not mistaken, those 3 studies were generated during her term, and they never got executed. And I love Susan.
Left office and they put it on the shelf.
I love Susan Cockburn, and yet I don't get it. We can criticize each other, we can beat each other up, and it doesn't get anything done. We have a private family business that has come to this town that wants to grow in this town. The Neelytown Road corridor, State Road 416, State Road 211. That's where you put your commercial growth in a normal situation. That's where truck traffic is supposed to be. On a federal highway, on a state highway, on a county highway, and hopefully minimal on a town road. That's where the commercial businesses belong. And Medline on Route 416, I'll tell you, I think if it were me, I would turn around and sue for being restricted to not be able to use a state highway. Every other trucking company in America is gonna use 416, is gonna use 211. And they're gonna tell you you've gotta restrict your traffic because you can't go through Montgomery when everybody else's trucks does. What are we, nuts? What's happening? We're out of control.
The hell this
And
goes
we
all
gotta
over
stick
this.
with the books and the laws. Moratorium, I've not heard one legitimate reason for a moratorium on this facility. This facility is a distribution facility with truck traffic and employees. They've alleged there's no hazardous waste, no nuclear waste. They're no different than any other big box on this road, on Neely Town Road. And in many of the villages, in the town of Montgomery, in the village of Walden,
5
in the
minutes are
village
up.
of Maybrook, in the city of Newburgh, in the town of Newburgh. What are you doing to these people? Come on, guys. I don't see one reason for a moratorium. As soon as they get all their check boxes checked, I would think that you would give them an approval and get them on their way. So I would urge an expedited approval. The other thing is that many of the things that people are here today complaining about have been brought out by a current supervisor. We wouldn't have known a lot of things that are brought out in the last couple of years if it wasn't for the current supervisor. So we're on the right path in this town of Montgomery. And I do appreciate this board for what you go through with these projects, and just keep doing the right thing. Thank you.
Anita Falcone.
Oh, Anita.
Good evening, Anita Falcone. I live on 211, and I am you, and I am all of you. I want you to take a good look. When I was younger, I worked very, very hard. I come from a poor family. We've heard a lot of stories like that tonight, and nobody gave me a pilot. Nobody gave me tax breaks. I worked hard like you do, and again, this is not about you. 211, I have to pay. I paid extra when I bought my house 15 years ago. I paid extra money because I'm in a historic district. What a joke that is right now. That's a joke. Excuse me, Mr. Taylor. I do not want traffic. It's already, we're deluged with trucks. And you know what? I hear it's not going to come through the village. Medline tells me it won't come through the village. Who's going to police that? Who's going to pay for that? The residents are. Listen, I have a right, like all of you and all the residents who live in the village and the town of Montgomery. We have worked our entire life to have a quality of life here, not a truck maker. I don't know whose idea was that. It's already been stated that anybody who lives near a major warehouse, their property value will die. And the businesses, it's your job. All of you to protect the businesses that are here. I have a small business. That's my only form of income. I'm blessed to have that. 15 years I've been a resident. It's your job to protect the businesses and the residents that have fought and worked hard to live here. You do work for us. This big company has the money. They have the money to relocate their people. Who's going to relocate me and the other village residents? Who's going to do that for me? Who's going to buy my house? Yes, we are impassioned about this. Don't you dare, any of you, make me out to be the bad guy, because I am not. I'm a resident. I am working for you, for your environment, for your children for a better life. And that's what the residents are here for. Not against this company. It's too big. It's common sense. Look at it. It doesn't belong on the end of 416 next to a historic village. Thank you very much.
I'm not going to get this right. Dan Morgan?
I'm Superintendent of the Valley Central School District, and I want to say at the front end, I'm not here to say, give our support for moratorium or for the pilot or pilots. Certainly couldn't do that.
I just say moratorium.
I have great faith
Sorry.
that this community will come to the right decisions. Having said that, I do want to tell you a little bit about one of our endeavors, okay? I belong to the Superintendent's Council. There's 18 of us. A lot of times we talk, we have had meetings, there's certain things we speak about. One of them was about pilots, that we don't have a seat at the table. And you know what, honestly, maybe we don't deserve a seat. I'm not here to ask you for a seat either. But doing some research, I found out that I spoke to our attorney and they said, is there any way that we could speak to the pilots outside of what they're going to do once they get their pilot and see if there's anything that they would be interested in doing for the school district? So I spoke to Jeff Christ, chairman of the IDA, and I can't tell you what a wonderful gentleman he was, so helpful and supportive. He said, sure, John, we'll meet. Long story short, we met with Dimitri and talked about what we could do outside the pilot, if there's any possibilities. One of the things I think we all talk about when pilots are given goods away, people talk about creating goodwill. And one of the things I said to Dimitri, Jeff Christ, was the fact that we have 4,200 school children. We have 900 adults that work for Valley Central School District, and half of them live in our community. So having said that, we are negotiating right now, in the event, make sure that's clear, in the event that the pilot is approved, we are negotiating an agreement which would give us a revenue stream of $300,000 a year for 10 years. And that would be outside any of the taxes that we collect. So what will we do with that? We could do capital improvements. We could certainly add equipment. We could add programs. There's a lot of things, $300,000 a year for 10 years.
Raise your salary.
I'm sorry.
Raise your salary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it very
Take
much
it out
your
on our
time
taxes?
and consideration. I just thought it was important to bring up the speed. Appreciate it. Okay, thanks very much.
School taxes are going to go down now. Okay.
Richard Phelps?
Where for sale?
But,
Where for sale?
yeah, sure. Oh, I hate to be so mad.
Hi, Fred. I thank the board for taking comments. My family's lived and been farmers in Orange County for 100 years. And as far as I know, we've always paid the taxes to the local governments we were involved with based on the assessment of the government in charge. This company has yet to pay taxes based on assessed value. What is the assessed value of this project? Is it $120 million? How much is the town losing with the pilot based on what it would be taxed on the overall true assessment? That should be determined. Number two, in agricultural land, if it's subdivided, taxes are paid for the previous 5 years on the land subdivided. Will this property be paying the 5 years back taxes that the farm was not required to pay because of its ag exemptions? Number three, given the beautiful drawing of Ms. Cockburn, there's one visual that's not clear, and that is that the blue line symbolizing the top of what is essentially a cruise ship is 100 feet above the level of the river. Try to visualize that graphic from 416. Mr. Taylor's wrong in that 416 is not the Neely Town corridor. 416 should be designated a scenic highway. 416 has the Orange County Golf Course on it. 416 has Hill Hold on it. 416 has the historic homes of Goshen on one end and the historic homes of Montgomery on the other end. This is an improper use of Route 416, and that should be your primary concern. Number 2. For what? 4 more minutes? Oh, I thought you said 4 more minutes, Freddie. Thank you. Let's see. Where was it? 416. See, that's how it goes. With the taxes, they should be paying full tax rollback from the ag exemption. Yes, the visual impact.
Scenic roadway.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot number 5. I'll reserve the rest of my time for when I think of it. Thank you.
Fred Mertz.
Sorry. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. Thanks.
I live in the village of Montgomery on Prentice Street, which is a stone throw from where Eden Park is, and also Medline. So I'm really sad to see that all the employees from Medline leave, because I had a question for them. How many of them work shift work? Show of hands. How many work a 12-hour shift? Okay, what if your sleep pattern is interrupted? How's your work habit? Off, right? Your work habit is off. Whatever your sleep habit is changed. So now, the proposal of the DEIS, all the noise associated with the emergency diesels are going to be behind the building, closer to the village. So anybody who works shift work, or even throughout the night, whenever they're going to test them, their sleep pattern is going to be off. Heaven forbid a child has to be woken up in the middle of the night because of noise coming from Medline, and a mother trying to get that child back to sleep. So you're saying no impact? There is impact. The noise level alone is just enough to throw a quiet neighborhood into turmoil. So a moratorium really needs to be looked at in a full in-depth study of quote-unquote noise levels, everything else that Medline wants to do there, and the impact of the residents all along Chandler, all along any part of the back edge of their property, the new development that went over on Beaver Dam Road. Everything needs to be looked at in a more of a fine-tooth comb. And Demetri, I got a question for you. You know where the intersection of 17K and 211 is? Okay, in the statement for the DEIS, no traffic is going to go through the village of Montgomery. However, if during a flood, where 16 gets flooded, where they can't access Neely Town Road, they're coming through to the intersection of 211 and 17K.
Or there's traffic
Where is
on
that?
84.
Downtown. Sorry.
Traffic on 84.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Patty.
Sure. There were 2 points, and one that the gentleman just reflected on, and that is that, 1 minute, that you're good at that. Let's see. river does flood at 416, you know, I've seen it happen. How many people on the board have seen the ice jam on 416? You can't go left onto Neelytown Road certain months of the year and certain weeks and days. You can't do it. Where's the traffic going to go? Medline said no trucks will go into Montgomery. I don't see how that's possible.
Me neither.
And number two,
Thank you.
it's not the job of this board to guarantee the employment of people for a private company.
That's right.
It's your job to guarantee the quality of life of the people, the residents of this town. Now, I sympathize with the workers of Medline. They're probably great people. But no one has given any evidence to this board that if you refuse these special permits, that they will lose their job. No one has proven they will lose any job. Okay? And we know that that's not true because Hamptonburg had the guts to turn down this project, and none of these people were fired when Hamptonburg told them to get wall. Thank you.
Beverly Mertz?
I'm short, so I'm bringing it down to my level. I'm trying. All right. First, let me say thank you to the board for allowing me to address you this evening. I have been a resident of the village of Montgomery for over 25 years, a resident of the town of Montgomery for over 30 years, and a resident of Orange County my entire life. For most of those years, I have had my head stuck in sand, thinking that those who have been elected to office are going to do their job in protecting my family, myself, and my home. Unfortunately, that situation has now changed. My head is now out of the sand, and as much as I would like to put it back in, I just cannot. In regards to the Medline project, there are a lot of inconsistencies in their DEIS report, and if I have time, I will get into a few of those. I am really concerned tonight with something that happened at the planning board last night. There was a topic on the agenda at the end of the evening where, although an issue was before the board, work at the site had already begun. There were no stated repercussions by the board, and an extension request of 90 days was given. Another issue was one of where a business installed a very large 130-foot long scale for weighing scrap metals and cars without a building permit. The building inspector, Mr. Schmidt, inspected the construction but refrained from citing a violation or having it dismantled as long as the business promised not to use it until the matter was addressed again by the planning board, which it will be on the September 2nd meeting. My fear in both of these cases, as well as in known other cases where Mr. Schmidt changed his mind, is that a very dangerous precedent is being set. Our law